Can you see yourself?
Yes.
Okay, you're being recorded. That's what you look like. Stop. Bernard, don't. Bernard, you look silly. You're on camera. Put that down. What day is it? December 31st.
2004.
Okay, how old are you?
9.
Where are you?
In Stratton, Vermont.
Yes.
Here's Mommy.
With your family.
What happened? What'd
My
you do, hit your
foot.
knee?
No, I kicked the table.
Daddy, hi.
Hi, honey. Can you see yourself?
That's weird, I can see myself.
That's how it's set up.
Why do they do that?
So if you have it on a tripod, you can see that you're recording properly.
Bernard, we're gonna get in the
All right, got a couple of camera hogs. Pan over to Dad. Dad, can you see yourself?
That video's of missing.
He likes to take pictures when you're eating. He does that to me, so...
I'm not. I'm just.
Dad, take pictures of our missing.
Okay, hold on. I want to take a.
Do it.
Dad, it's okay. Go ahead. Just. This is all just testing.
Is that a new camera?
That's Bernard's Christmas present.
All right.
Big butts in the way.
Bernard, why are you home today? You're not feeling well?
Yeah, actually. But this girl.
Okay, I'm gonna take a picture. Bernard, look at
she's
Daddy
having
for a second.
Video camera.
Look at me, Bernard.
This is why Bernard's home today.
Get it? Bye. Oh, you modal? Yeah,
You'll be able to get her picture.
I know.
You'll be able to. You'll be able to see how tough she is. Stout's the hog of the family. Let me, it's my video.
Okay, Bernard, I'm trying to. Hold on a second. I want to just test something, please. I know it's yours, Bernard. Say hello, Mommy.
Hi,
Yeah.
Daddy.
Hi, Scouty. Hi, Scouty. Okay, see, I can take a picture now. Do that again, honey, with him. We'll just pause up.
Have you watched Ellen? This is very... That's...
Scout.
Okay.
Scout. Oh,
Look at Daddy.
no one's cooperating with me.
I'm cooperating. Cookie, come here. I'm gonna brush your hair.
Yeah, I'll take a video of that.
Hi. Hi.
Did I ever get a clear shot of her
She
face?
ate, right? How do you feel?
Because she's so fluffy.
Okay. Oh.
Bernard, you just spit all over my face.
It's
You're
just so
sick.
funny.
Hi, Scout.
Cookie is our
Bernard.
little goofball.
I'm gonna get sick. He's like goobering on me.
Are you snortling on your
Yes.
father?
Bernard.
All right, Cookie. Scouty, you go with your Letty. She's getting older.
I know.
I don't know what's going on.
It's her fur.
I don't know, maybe it's because it's getting wet and she's...
I don't know.
You needed us to come her.
She's got like this thing here.
Daily lamp. reading about this.
Tom, is your organization ever dealing in futures?
No. Just foreign exchange. We don't trade futures. It's just too much risk and not enough money in it.
Well, I know of somebody that who sells the options has the money to cover.
Yeah, we don't write options. It's a very risky business. Takes a lot of capital. There's a lot of guys out there that do option writing, and then when it goes in the money, you can't collect from them. Like, they sell options. They collect the premiums to sell the options. Then, when they lose money on it, you can lose a tremendous amount of money. So it takes a lot of capital in order to be a firm that writes options. It's different in stocks. Stocks, it's a safer bet because there's not as much leverage.
If you had somebody with very substantial, otherwise worth a couple of.
They'd have to deposit all the money. We'd have to have the collateral on location.
Yeah, for what you sell short.
Yeah, but then you'd have to over collateralize it. Most people don't want to do that. You know, but we don't do options anyway. We don't do futures. We don't do options on futures. But if he's looking for a firm to do it at, you know, there's a lot of firms that do that. A lot of firms don't write, will not allow people to write out of the money puts and calls because it's too dangerous.
I mean, if I understand this person, in other words, when he sells the options, he sells short, for example.
Right.
He's doing it to protect himself for the future.
He's a hedger.
You know, so in the sense of if the price goes up, he's covered, and if the price goes down,
He's naturally long.
if the price goes down, so he doesn't make money on that time, but he's protected himself.
Right. He's a natural hedger. But most of the time, natural hedgers, if they're, let's say they're naturally long corn, right? It's a farmer. He'll just sell corn futures. Writing options is a little more speculative.
If it had somebody who was very substantial,
But we can't do futures.
you can't.
No. No. We don't do futures. And if we did futures, we wouldn't do options on futures. Because
Well,
what happens is,
whatever the hedging is, so that you don't, guaranteed you don't lose the money.
what happens
That's what
is,
this fellow does.
right, so he's a natural hedger. He must be long, he's
No,
already long a product.
He's got loads of money.
But does he have product? Like, what does he sell?
He's the largest meat packer in the United States.
So he probably already has a firm he does this with.
Yeah, they would already be set up major, like in retail. I mean, banks.
He'd already be well, he would be going to a futures commission merchant and writing options. The problem is, for a firm like
He can go to
a futures
anybody he
firm,
wants to, but this one is,
the problem is, we're approached all the time by people who want to write options, all the time. Because it takes so much capital to write options. So what happens is, you know, and it happens all the time, in the stock market it's more prevalent. People write options, you know, that they write, let's say, calls on IBM, right? And however, 90% of the call options on stocks or on commodities expire worthless. The 10% that
Yeah,
expire
the-
in the
the
money
person
are so
makes- The
significant.
person makes the money who sold the option. because
But when they
most
don't
of the
make
time
money,
they're not
Yeah, this is
exercising.
Tom's business. He
but
knows
when they
how it
don't make
works.
money, they,
Let me ask
no,
him.
I know.
Am I allowed to
No,
talk?
but
Yeah.
you're telling him like he doesn't know.
No, but when
Let
they
him
do-
speak.
yeah, but
He
then
No,
knows.
I'm not, I'm questioning.
But when they
since I
don't
know-
make, but when
I
they,
don't know myself.
when they actually lose money, it's so significant, it wipes out everything they've lost, everything they've made, and is usually, you know, multiples of what they've made in the past, their losses. So that's why option
I
writing
know
is so
somebody-
significant.
Somebody that.
It's
in
very
other words,
dangerous.
He covers himself completely, so that if it goes down or up, whichever the case may be, I don't know what it is, he's covered. He's not selling somebody else's,
Dad,
It's
it's
not
very
covered.
common practice. It's
he's
common
not
practice in many
covering somebody
industries.
else,
Right.
not covering somebody else's.
It's called,
money.
yeah, it's called hedging.
He's using his own money.
Right, he's hedging. He's a hedger. So if he's long meat, right, he already owns the meat, right? So he's long the meat. He wants to guard against the price of meat going down. So what meat packers do is,
Or the price going up, whichever it is.
well, if the price goes up,
And that's good for him. if
that's
he's
good
long.
because he already owns the meat. So if it goes up, he just sells it for more money,
That's,
right? So if let's say you're an oil producer, right, and your refineries are full, there's no risk if the price of oil goes up because you're just going to raise your prices on what you already own. However, if you're an oil user,
Don't interrupt while we're brushing over it, okay?
there's risk because you have to buy it in the future. So the oil producer, he'll sell futures. The oil user will buy futures to hedge themselves. And what some people do is they're already long meat, right? For example, this person is, let's say he's long meat. He'll sell calls on cattle because if he has to make delivery, he owns it. He can just make delivery.
yeah.
And if it goes, but if,
That's really this, I don't know a lot about this person, except that I know that he's very substantial. His gross was in the billions. And he
Dad,
nets-
if someone's got that kind of business, they don't need to be
he's
told
already
where to go.
probably hedging. He must be already doing significant hedging. If he's already if he's in the business. Small producers in the cattle
Oh,
market.
I'm
don't
sure he's
do-
already doing this. I know that.
But now the price is so competitive because the markets are so efficient. It's really just a matter of offering the cheapest commission versus the risk. The problem with writing options is you have to be substantially capitalized in order to allow one of your customers to write options. So if we had a big option writer as a customer, we would have to put our firm capital at risk, plus he would obviously have to make the deposits in order to cover his call writing or put writing or straddle writing, whatever his
Well,
strategy
is it
is.
possible to have them put their money, have their money up, in other words, so if they have to sell, if they're selling short, for example,
Right, well,
they didn't have to ordinarily come up with
right.
that money, but if they've sold whatever it is, puts, calls,
Right.
whatever it is,
They have to deposit the funds immediately.
in other words,
But most of the time
if somebody is in that,
if they're that big, they're already very sophisticated hedging strategies. They're using futures, options, a lot of guys have
Cocktails.
trading desks. Yeah, it's a mixture of strategies that they would use. If they're that big, if he's doing billions of dollars, he would already have a very sophisticated.
Letty's gonna talk to you about it sometime.
Yeah. But
Because this is somebody, as a friendship type of thing, you know, he can do the same anywhere.
right, we're not licensed to do it. So you have to be licensed in order to do that type of business. And then they watch you very closely to make sure you're capitalized well enough in order to do it. Because what happens is people are always trying to place business, like big hedge funds, they have big positions in the stock market. So what they do is they write out of the money calls and out of the money puts, and they collect a very small premium to do that. But over time, you know, it's a yield enhancer. However, when disaster strikes and there's a big move in the marketplace, in either direction, a significant move, and volatility increases, there can be millions of losses.
To be safe, you have to be able to come up with the money. You have to have the money in your pocket available to, say if meat went up.
Well, right, what happens is, Dad, the firm has the account with the exchange, right? So let's say it's me, it's the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, it's live cattle, then the customer has the account.
As a member of the New York Stock Exchange.
Well, if he's doing me, he's probably a member of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange as well. If he's hedging cattle, he'd be a member of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. That's where they trade live cattle, futures contract. So he would do that. There's also a cash contract as well that big producers trade in that commodity. So they use fairly sophisticated strategies.
Well, you have to know what you're doing.
But there's also a very small market for options in cattle because it's an illiquid contract. Not many trade a day. So, but people bet on it. You know, I know guys in Chicago that trade the cattle market all the time. But, you know, for their own accounts, but just small. A lot of the cattle producers, they trade already in the cash market. The problem is, they collect premiums like people do all the time in the stock market. They own IBM and they write calls against it. And it goes up a little bit, but the one time IBM moves down significantly, they get wiped out. Because the premium they collect for their call option they write doesn't cover the loss. Because you know, for example, Financial Labs looks at these strategies.
In other words, to have the stock available, you have to have it in your pocket, so that if the stock goes down, you can cover it without it hurting.
Or if you have to own it. If somebody
That's
calls
what
it
I'm
from
talking
you,
about.
right? You have to already own it if they call it from you.
Right.
If it goes down, there's not a lot you can do, even if you've written a call option against it, because the premium you collect is usually just, let's say IBM's trading at 100, right? You would sell 105 call option. You'd collect $2, let's say for 2 months, but somebody can call that stock from you at 105. That's the strike price. If the stock moves below 98, you're now losing money. Let's say the stock goes to 90. For example, people did that in Xerox. They were writing calls at 75, buying more stock. The problem was IBM went from 75 to 35 to 14. The Xerox went from 75 to 35 to 14.
Xerox really took your head.
I'm saying that's a strategy, a yield enhancing strategy that does not work if you're writing covered calls. So very sophisticated strategy, but if the guy's doing that much hedging, you must have a very sophisticated trading desk already.
He'd have his
Full
own.
time.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
He would have his own probably, wouldn't he? He's the biggest
Yeah, he
meat
would be.
importer in the country.
Yeah. There's whole programs. All they do is they actually what's called an overlay program. They go and let's say you're a big meat producer or a meat importer. They'll have a hedge fund will look at your exposures and trade around it.
Supposedly, whether it's what's the name of the place, the Outback, all of the big chains. He's supposed to be.
Right. So I'm sure Daddy's already doing very sophisticated hedging strategies.
I'm sure he is.
There's firms like Iowa Grain in Chicago. That's all they do is meat. You know, it's a 300-man firm, and all they do is focus on meat strategies, agricultural. But a lot of their business is meat.
I got the impression that you didn't, the way he was doing it, he was safe because he could always cover it.
Well, the problem is if he's right, if the price of meat collapses and he's long, and he's writing puts, alrighty, let's say he's writing puts against it, you would have meat put to him. So if you write a put option, it gives the buyer of that put option the right to put meat to you or to sell you that product at a predetermined strike price. So if meat's trading at, let's say, $100, the put option might be at 95. Well, if meat goes below 95, they're going to sell you meat there. They're going to sell you meat at 94, depending on the premium that was received or paid on that option. So it's a very sophisticated strategy. That's what Financial Labs looks like, all those types of strategies. And it's all just tiny, tiny mispricing. The market's extremely efficient. It's extremely efficient. Like how they price options. For example, people who do options writing, amateurs in the stock market, they make a little bit of money over time here and there. And eventually, they take a beating because of the commissions they pay and the spreads they pay, the difference between the bid and the ask in the options. So it's a very, you have to be very sophisticated
I'm
to
getting
break
the
even.
impression the person that does it way that there's no risk because it goes down and goes against him. He just covers it.
Right. Right. If he goes, it depends if he's long or short, or what his business is. The problem is for the firm actually doing the business with him. If he doesn't pay, or if there's a big move in the market, then the firm's got to put up its own capital. That's why we don't do futures. It's too risky. There's not enough money in it. And we rarely ever do options, even in foreign exchange. We just don't get involved with it. It's a very risky part of the business doing options. People are always looking for firms to do the right puts and calls for them in the exchanges. Because if there's a big move, the exchange looks to the firm, not to the customer, to meet the capital requirements. So it's a big risk. So they're always trying to place options business. It's a risky part of the business.
The person has to be very substantial.
Well, he has to be. The problem is in that business, if that's his business, he's substantial one day, but if the price of meat collapses, he's not substantial the next day.
I thought it was covered, in other words.
But he might have bought the meat at, let's say, 80 cents a pound. Now he's got to sell it to the restaurants at 40 cents a pound. He just lost 40 cents a pound.
Unless he's hedged somehow, and then.
Well, yeah, unless he sells futures. Yeah, let's say he sells futures against it, then yes, he'd be covered if it went down. Of course, a lot of people don't do that because they want the upside. If it goes from 80 cents to $1.20 a pound, they want to be able to go to the restaurants and say, okay, now I'm selling it to you for $1.20 a pound and earn that 40-cent profit. So that's where the strategy is. You have to start guessing where the market's going to go. Nobody can do that. Very few people know where the market's going to go, particularly in the long run. The market's very efficient in the long run.
Well, the impression I get is, because he has the capital, in other words, he can cover whatever it is. He himself takes no risk. The only risk he takes, if it doesn't go a certain way, he may just break even.
Or he might not make money. He might not make as much money.
Right.
Because he's hedging himself at a price. But you don't need to do options to do that. You just do the futures. You wouldn't do an options contract.
I don't know enough about futures and options.
Yeah.
So, just that somebody the lady knows, he's friendly.
Does he
And
put
it
it?
sounds like he's would be giving business to somebody just as a friend. Understand what I mean?
Right. It's a very
He's a
competitive
substantial
business.
guy. Whereas Arnie Simon used to rent his jets, this guy owns two.
Right. Well, you have to be licensed to do that business. That's the thing. I'm not even licensed to do it. So you have to be licensed. To earn money on it, you have to be licensed as well. Like if Eddie were to recommend that person to a firm, unless Eddie was licensed to do options, he couldn't earn commissions on that business. So he couldn't even get paid. It's highly regulated. highly regulated business. So depending on the type of business this person wants to do, which is most likely, it sounds like he wants to write options. He'd have to go to a firm that just specializes in that. Or a big firm that does that among other businesses. Yeah. The guy's a meat producer?
The largest packer in the United States.
What's his name?
I don't know, one of his names of his companies, after done with the companies, it's called Primrose.
Primrose?
In any event, they own all the major chains, like Outback, it's already.
I thought they supplied them, not owned them.
Yeah, it supplies them, right. I don't know.
See, we only do over-the-counter foreign exchange, that's it. We don't do any options. You have to go to a Merrill Lynch,
Well, I'm just saying,
Goldman Sachs.
if there was something
No, I
where,
appreciate that.
where there was no risk. Because this guy is substantially,
Right.
he doesn't have to take the risk, and he's not worried about the next dollar.
Right.
Already has it.
He's obviously already hedging somewhere, he's probably has a firm to do it. The problem is he has to go to a big firm.
Mentioned, for example, he mentioned that Eddie was too smart to do the type of things he's doing. You know,
What, the legal work and
what he's been doing, personal injury, stuff like that. This guy,
maybe Eddie can do some stocks for the guy or something. But options that's a whole nother ballgame. It's like kinda like doing brain surgery. If you're a general practitioner trying to do brain surgery, you know, you're a doctor, but you're not licensed to do neurosurgery.
but you know that apparently the market backwards and forwards and sideways.
Well,
So you will be able to tell.
I know the basics. I know I'm not an expert
No, I'm not saying an
in
expert,
options.
but I'm just saying,
I ran an options desk at Credit Suisse. I wouldn't sit down and pretend to know how to calculate premiums on options positions, but I know the strategies. It's a risky business, even for hedgers. That's the problem. It takes a tremendous amount of capital to do options. Futures is not as bad, as long as the guy can prove he's a hedger. If you can prove you're hedging, which you have to do, you get lower margin rates, means you have to put up less collateral, because you're naturally long the product already, so you're a true
Dad, you
hedger.
understand that? Like if you're really in the business, let's say cars, let's say, right? Like,
No, let's say oil's an easy one to use. You're an oil producer. You can sell futures contracts, right, on the New York Mercantile Exchange in oil in order to hedge yourself. And you get preferred margin. You have to put up as much collateral.
because
But you have to prove that you're long that.
it's
You have to
transparent that you
document
own the oil
Correct.
and
yeah,
Correct.
it's not out of thin air.
So if the price does go up, there is no risk because you're 100% hedged. Of course, if the price goes down, you're mitigating your risk.
well, this guy, I know the type of money he makes is mega bucks. And I think he was doing this I don't think he was doing this to have another source of income. You know.
No, he's probably hedging himself. He's offsetting his risk.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he owns the meat.
No matter
and
what
he's selling.
happens, he can't go there.
Right. With hedging accounts, they get lower collateral. You have to put up less collateral, lower margin rates, and they usually pay less commissions too,
Yeah, but
because the brokerage firm's not taking any risk.
that's dangerous.
Well, let's say he wasn't hedged, and the price went up, and he couldn't meet his margin calls.